If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is interested in the property market, then the UK Property Market Stats Show, is for you. My name is Christopher Watkin, and each week I report on what's happening in the property market. I'm always joined by a special guest. This week it is Bryan Mansell. We'll come to Bryan in a second. The British are obsessed with the property market. Whenever the Land Registry throws out some data, it's front page news in the Times. Whenever the Halifax and Nationwide put out some details, it's front page news. The problem is that the Land Registry is looking at sales that took place, that were agreed 8, 9, 10 months ago. The Halifax and Nationwide are looking at sales that were agreed 2 or 3 months ago. Ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at the property market and house prices from last week. So if you're interested in the property market and you want the inside track, then this show is for you. The show itself lasts approximately 1 hour. The first half of the show is where we look at the UK property market in detail, Bryan and myself, and we analyse what's happening. And the second half is where we deep dive into a town or a city in the UK and really analyse that particular property market and work out which estate and letting agent is the best. This week we are going to the city of Truro in Cornwall, a beautiful, beautiful city. Now, if you're not from Truro, you might find that awfully boring. However, we're going to be using a piece of kit which analyses the different estate agents and see who's the best. Therefore, if you're an estate agent who is suffering from overvaluing or cheap fees from competitors, you might want to see Bryan and myself analyse the Truro agents in detail using a piece of software that you can have access to yourself and then what you could do is have that same software yourself and analyze your town and prove that you are the better estate agent. So without further ado, let's go to Bryan Mansell. Bryan Mansell is the boss man of Gazeal. He's on a one-man mission with his team to help reduce the sale fall-throughs. I don't know if you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, one in 4 properties sale falls through. He uses a product. He's the boss man of Gazeal, and Gazeal is a product which is what's called a reservation agreement, which turns the fall through rate into single digits. Bryan won't be talking about that because at the end of the day, he's not allowed to do any selling on this, but I'm allowed to mention his product. Bryan used to be a regional director, big in the game at Countrywide when people feared them. So Bryan has had a number of, he started at the bottom, worked his way up, as I said, to regional director. He's very well thought of in the industry and he knows his onions when it comes to properties. Thanks for joining me today, Bryan.
You are welcome, Christopher, as always, my friend. You will look well.
Very well, thank you, sir. As I said, we are going to Truro. I just came back from a few days down in Cornwall and I thought, we'll do Truro. But without further ado, people don't need to hear what we're doing with our holidays or working holidays. Let's move on and look at the property market. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're looking at week 29 of 2025, which, just looking at my calendar, is Monday the 21st of July all the way through and to include Sunday the 27th. We will be comparing week 29 with the week 29s going back to 2017, and we'll be looking at the year-to-date figures on various different metrics, starting with listings, price reductions, sales agreed, fall-throughs, net sales, and other particular metrics. So without further ado, Bryan, shall we go and have a look and see what's happening in the UK property market this week?
Let's have a dive in, yeah, absolutely.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we always start with the listings. I'll just spend 30 seconds just going through the numbers and then Bryan can give his thoughts on this. Okay, so this week we listed 33,012 properties with an average asking price of 417,000. You can see on the graph here, ladies and gentlemen, that the white line is 2025. And as always, it happens, come hell or high water, we are now on a slow and steady downward trajectory with the number of listings until we get to August bank holiday. So what you'll notice is that there's always a slight uplift in the week before the bank holiday weekend, and then there is a drop on that week, and then it comes back up again, and then slow drift down. So the white line is this year, and we're comparing it with 17, 18, 19, 23, and 24 at this stage because they are more normal years. We will be bringing in the 20 and the 21 and 22 figures with the sales as we progress through. And year to date, we're on 1,070,000 properties that have come onto the market, which in terms of the actual year to date figures, that is, as I said, 4.2% more than last year and 7% more than 17, 18 and 19. And as I said, 13.1% more than what was happening in the overall 8 years. And thoughts, scores on the doors. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I was asked this question actually beforehand. What do I think's going on? And I said what I will say now. It's really positive, right? I mean, there's been some really good positive signs over the last couple of weeks, particularly around mortgages, that I think is driving part of this. The weather is probably driving part of this as well. But I think generally, like you are comparing to, what we call normal years, the years before COVID and after COVID. It's lots of reasons to be cheerful. I think it's positive, very positive.
Yeah, it's just a normal market. I mean,
Normal market.
if people come to this show expecting end of the world stuff and big spikes, then I'm sorry, you're going to be severely disappointed. You will notice that the property market is very cyclical in its nature, and what just happens is that just the tide just pushes it up or pushes it down, but the shape is nearly always the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right to point out the fact that looking at the trajectory that we can expect in the next 4 weeks, it's the classic summer holidays, isn't it? School holidays, August period. There is, I think, a general misconception, though, in the industry from estate agents that the market is really quiet in August, but actually it doesn't have to be quiet where you are. I think I once read that only 15% of the UK population are away at any one time in August. So there's an awful lot of other people that are still here, who need to move. So I would urge anybody, if the valuations are drying up in your diary going into August, put your attention firmly on your existing clients.
Again, we're like a broken record. Is that you're sitting on some. Everyone wants the bright spangly new stuff, but they don't look after their existing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's now move on and look at price reductions. And price reductions this week, 23,464. Let's just remind ourselves the number of properties that are currently on the market. Now, we do this on a monthly basis, so this will be updated in the first show in August. But at close of play end of July at close of play June going into July, there was 758,000 properties for sale. Again, just before we will have panic stations there. Remember that was at 1.3 million back in 2008. So let's don't panic on that one, ladies and gentlemen, or the doom-mongers amongst you that are looking for a little bit of tidbits just to keep your doom-mongering going. Sorry, that bit naughty. Oh well. 399,000 is the average asking price of a property that's being reduced, and we are reducing 14% of our stock on a monthly basis. Again, is that enough?
Well, the only proof to answer that, well, the only answer to that question will be in the proof of what happens to the sales results in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And if you look at what'd be interesting, if not for today, but if you go back across that graph and look at other peaks, what was reflected in the sales figures the following week. So what you'd expect, everybody should expect, if you're putting your attention on adjustments in price, you're doing that for a simple reason, to try to get the property sold right for your client. So naturally, has that happened? So if you've gone in and you've made these alterations on price, has it had the desired effect? The problem is, Chris, in most agencies, and it's always the same problem, is that do they look at this like you do? Do they look at this like a business? Your actions today of getting a price change should reflect in your sales uplift in the next 2 to 3 weeks. How often do you look at how effective that is? Has that happened? So if you've told your team to go and get 14% of your stock reduced this month, has it increased the number of sales incrementally for the following couple of weeks? If not, super simple. Your process doesn't work because you've just changed the price, but have you aggressively rung out on that property and challenged the market with it when it's been changed? And if it hasn't changed, then you haven't reduced it enough.
Sorry, what's this rung out? I thought you just hit the button on the CRM.
It's an old term, Chris. It's old school term when we used to pick the phone up and ring buyers
Uh,
rather than put it online.
sorry, pick the phone up again. Maybe you could explain it to the 20 somethings. Well, again, they're not
Yeah,
going to
well, it's the thing that used to sit on your desk, right? And it was like a cash machine. Okay,
be.
you put PIN numbers in,
Yeah.
and money comes out the other end when you've had a phone call with somebody.
Do you know? Is that what they call prop tech? Is that must be AI? Must be AI.
It was AI. We used to use AI back in the 90s in agency in all my branches. It was called actual intelligence.
Yeah. It's, okay. I knew it. I knew it would go downhill, but I didn't know it'd be going downhill
Bad.
this quickly. I've just posted on social media today that I think most estate agents are shit at prospecting
Yep.
because they're either disc profile or two. Let me just bring it up because I tell you here and now it's causing a lot of disconcert. Here we go. Let's just pull this up. Hold on. There we go. Most of valuers are I-type disc profiles, so they're people-driven SDI blues or
Yep.
insights sunshine yellows,
Yep.
which means they're very good at getting the listings, but their biggest fear is rejection. So therefore, they're not very good at prospecting because
I'm a
they
red, by the way.
Of course you are. That means if you do start, that means you're an SDI red, results driven, or disc profile D, or insights fiery red, same thing. And what you tend to find is these are very good at starting, but not very good at finishing because they are lack the patience. And
Yeah.
I basically said on the post is this: work out which type of personality you are and work on. If you're in fiery red like you, work on patience. And if you're a disc profile I or an SDI blue or sunshine yellow on insights, learn to love rejection. And if you can know what your weaknesses are, you can backfill it, and you will win. And you will win so big in a state agency
Yep.
because you're doing something that the competitors are not.
Well, the truth is, of course, on that theory, on the disc process, is that we're not all just one color. We're a mixture of colors, but there's a dominant color.
Yes.
And it's understanding, what your dominant color is. But also, if you're working in certain markets, it's a really useful trick to understand, almost profile your customers to know how to deal with them. If you've got a red, if you ring me up about a really hot property, I'm probably likely to ask you a couple of questions, but go and view it. But I'm not the sort of person that will say, send me the details, right? Just bang, get it to me, hit me on the phone, make me first, and I'll react. But if I'm a blue or a green, I want to forensically analyze it. I might want to drive out, look at the house first and look at the details and so on and so on. And a yellow, you can just tell me that my friends are looking at it and I'll go and see it. So just we're off the beaten track, but very, very quickly. Super good book to read if you've never read it, called Surrounded by Idiots.
Who writes it? Do you know? You remember?
Yes, I do.
Don't worry, I'll fill whilst you're doing
Yeah,
it. We'll,
yeah,
we'll, we'll take this bit out. Don't worry, no one watches the show.
great.
Ladies, valuers, or any estate agents is that we are in a people business, and therefore working out A, what personality type you are, and B, what personality type the person you're dealing with is, you can adjust what your language and your approach to that person. Because there's this new website, okay, Brian, I don't know if you've heard of it. Take it down. It's called Google. Okay.
Fuck, hit Google, yeah. I
I,
was writing it down.
I know. And there's another one called youtube.com. And
Yeah.
ladies and gentlemen, you just type in is this. So go how can I work out what disc profile someone is? And there'll be videos out there. And then you can do self-tests on what disc profile you are. And then it'll then teach you signs to work out what type of disc person. And again, other models are available. You've got the SDI, you've got the insights. To be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, they're all the bloody same. They just take the same model and just twist it 90 degrees so they can charge more money. But fundamentally, that the models are the same. And if you're in a people business, if you can read people, you're 90% of the way there.
Thomas Erickson is the author of that book.
I tell you what, that was well remembered there. Well filled there by the Watkin, if he does say so himself. Right, let's move on. Again, don't worry about it. No one watches the show anyway. Right, moving on. gross sales, and this week we're on 26,021. Okay, we'll just pull what was it last week? It was 26,200. So again, just a slight drift, but I would expect a drift. But again, ladies and gentlemen, let's just see where we are here. We are well ahead of the pack of 17, 18, and 19, and 23 and 24. Again, remember 23. Look at the gap there. Amazing. So sales compared to the more normal years are really, really good. Okay. Years to date, we're on 769, which is 7.6% ahead of last year and 14.8% ahead of 17, 18, or 19. Let's just remind ourselves we are in terms of we are 7% ahead year to date on listings, but we are 14 we're 7% ahead of 17, 18, and 19, but in terms of gross sales, we're 14.8% ahead. So yes, there's more listings, but there's double the amount of sales in terms of the growth. Interestingly, when it comes to net sales, we're 10.6% ahead. So we're still, we're doing really well, guys.
That's back to what we've just said, isn't it? I mean, that is probably some degree of proof that the adjustments that people are making in prices are actually having an effect.
Well, that yes, in terms of sales, I still don't think it's enough. But when still we are still only selling one in two houses we list.
Yeah.
I had a very interesting discussion with an estate agent in Manchester last week when I was up at the John Paul AI, which I was conference that I was hosting, and okay, here, well, let me throw this one. I said the vast majority of the 50% of homes that don't sell because of overvaluing, and he said he believes that is not the case, and there are other bigger reasons why, like they couldn't find the house they wanted.
Well, they couldn't find the house they wanted because they can't sell the one they've got because it's overpriced.
Ooh.
That's always been the case. We get loads of reservations from people who have found a house, made an offer, subject to selling theirs, that then don't sell theirs because it's overpriced. Because the problem you've got, if you think about it logically, is I can't find it. I can find a house, but I can't secure a house because I've got to pay over the odds because my position is weak in comparison to other people in the market. So I agree an overinflated price, which I can now only get if I get an overinflated price on mine, which I can't. So that deal never happens. And loads of time gets wasted. It's classic. So I then come off the market because I can't sell my house.
Because
I can't buy one because people go about moving the wrong way. But they've always have, and they're not going to change. So
you're
you're right.
You're on soapbox duty today, mate. You're on fire. Right, there you go. That's the sales. Let's now move on and Resi sell-through rate. This is a monthly figure, so this will be updated in hopefully by the next show. And last month, this is June, 15.3% of homes, 15.28 actually, of homes on agents' books sold subject to contract in the month of June. I love this graph because it just shows you the cyclical nature of the market, and the fact is that if you look at each year, that the shape is almost identical. January, February, March, April, May, slip down, big slip up again just after bank holiday, August down again. And it just moves up and down like a tide. I just love that graph. Okay, let's now move on. The difference between the prices of homes coming onto the market, that's the red line, versus the turquoise line, which is the average asking price of the properties that go under offer sold subject to contract. Interestingly, I had a very interestingly, I think it's interesting, discussion with someone on social media about the relevance of this graph because, this upward trend which happens every September, first 2 weeks of September, is London, and literally 5,000 homes make that difference. He said, "What is the relevance of this graph?" And I said, "Well, I would prefer it was median, not average. But again, we haven't got that data, and it's good to some data is better than no data. And it's the trend between the two." But yeah, It's the gap that we're looking at. So we'll just put that into physical terms. These are the week 29 standalone figures. The turquoise is the average sale price, and the greeny figure is the average listing price. And as I said, the gap is 12.9. It has been as much as 28%, and it will jump up again in spirit in September. Anything on that before we go to fall throughs?
No, I just think that the point, whoever it was you were talking to, was trying to make is difficult to understand. You know, you're looking at what is coming on the market at a certain price and what is selling at a certain price. And the point of that graph is to show the gap between. So if you were listing everything at the price in which properties were selling for, you'd sell a lot more houses.
Yeah, the gap isn't what the difference between it comes on the market for and what it sells for. It's
It's what's listing and what's selling on
what's
different.
listing. And the bottom line is the lower price properties have a higher chance at higher propensity, higher chance of selling. So therefore you can have the posh ones, you know. I did some analysis in London, and as soon as you get over £1 million, the chances of it sale are like 1 in 5 in
Yeah,
some
I know.
areas.
Yeah.
Right, fall throughs this week. We fell through on 6,345 properties. Let's just remind ourselves of the sales pipeline before we all start panicking. 496,400 properties were in estate agent sales pipelines going into the 1st of July, which means, let's pull that graph back, that just over, on a monthly basis, just over 5% of your pipeline is falling through on a monthly basis. The percentage fall through rate, which is something that most agents use, is
28 now, is it? Something like that, 28%?
this week it is, hold on, this week it was 24.4.
Okay.
Okay. So this is a number that a lot of estate agents use. And what they do is that they compare the number of fall throughs in that week expressed as a percentage of the gross sales that week. So just again, for those that aren't estate agents, if we had 25 fall throughs from our sales pipeline and we added 100 properties sale agreed into it, 25 expressed as a percentage of 100 is 25%. So the sale fall through rate is 25%. But remembering that 25 is coming off the pipeline and 100 is coming into the pipeline. It's just the way agents work and think. I personally believe I love the pipeline fall through rate, but this is how most estate agents. But again, Brian, and again, let's not turn this too much into an advert for Gazeal. You get this down into single digits, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, we do. We get the 24% down into 4 to 5%, which we hope to be even lower now with the inclusion of our deposit process. But it's not changing, is it, mate? That's the thing. It's just 6,000. I mean, the fact is, we can talk about percentages, but what matters to me is the fact that 6,000 units sales fell apart, which is 12,000 people in a week. You know,
Yeah,
it's one, one
ruining
every
their lives.
2 minutes or so, one every two and a couple minutes. It's just so uncertain, and you know, yeah, it's just way too much. It's way, way too much because it's always going to be like that unless you do something about it, right? Simple as.
And again, ladies and gentlemen, I genuinely, if you're not instructing solicitors at listing, what the hell is stopping you? Okay. And if you're going to turn around and say, well, my vendors won't want to pay that, I'm calling BS because there's shed loads of agents out there that are getting the vendors to instruct solicitors.
Yeah.
Problems in your head, not
The
not.
problem is, Chris, a lack of fluency and passion.
Oof, strong words, mate.
Yeah. If I mean, if you're a dedicated, if you are dedicated to your profession, okay, then why wouldn't you give robust, seriously positive advice about how people move, how you should move? Because as an agent, you would, I hear it every day. You hear it every day, right? I'm sick of this. I'm sick of that. They don't want to do this. The customers don't want to do that. It doesn't work. Da, da, da. No, no, no. What doesn't work is you, because you've got an awful lot of things to do, but actually you're not prioritizing those things in terms of how important they are to your customer. Yeah. And so if you are a dedicated professional in the game, you would know, first of all, what options there are for your customers that the industry can provide so that you can take away a lot of the pain that your customers face, that you also face as well, secondary to that. And you'd know what's going on with new innovations and new services in the industry because you'd read the industry press because you are dedicated to your profession and you're dedicated to giving absolutely great advice to clients. Turns out that that advice also looks like differentiation, which also looks like value proposition, which actually means that then your fee problem goes away a little bit less. So actually, the industry can correct itself and save itself if people were more dedicated to their profession. But the reality is they're not. Owners aside, entrepreneurs aside, there's no surprise to me why there is a massive rise of positivity and popularity amongst the self-employed agency network. Because the one thing I know from first-hand experience is those people are laser focused on the industry, laser focused on the market, laser focused on making it right, and more importantly, laser focused on giving their customers truly correct advice. And here's the kicker, right? If any seller said to any estate agent, "How innovative are you? How open to change are you?" Every single estate agent in the UK would say to that person, "Oh, very much so." Reality is, most of them aren't because they're fixated, their telescopes are on the wrong aspect of their business.
You, until estate agents learn that, I think estate agents want the listing more than the homeowner wants the sale.
Yeah.
And until we focus on not getting the list, and again, why do we focus on the listing? Because we don't want to lose it to the competitors. We don't want to lose it to the competitors because our personality type hates rejection. It's what we were saying about prospecting earlier on. If you can learn to love rejection, you will win so big in estate agency. I mean, I've got some stats here.
Before you do, Chris, how long have you been doing this show?
This is our third year.
Right. So I'm pretty sure in one of your early episodes, may have been me, may have been somebody else, said that if you fail to innovate as an estate agent, someone new will come in and do it for you and eat your lunch. 3 years ago, when you started this, those were the comments that were made on one of your shows. I remember it vividly. May have even been one of the first I did. What are we seeing today? The number one estate agency in the UK for property sales is EXP, followed by Purple Bricks. Right? So as an individual business, I appreciate when you add Connells who buying everybody, that's cheating. But if you add them all up, then probably they're the biggest. But actually, from a brand in the public's mind,
From a brand point of view,
the largest is the people that I see innovating the most and wanting to change the most. And I know that because every single day of my life, I hear stories from our innovative agents that work with Gazeal. My client has tried to get the reservation on the purchase, but it's through XYZ, and they're saying, "It's ridiculous, don't do that. We've never heard of that, don't do it." Just because you've never heard of something does not mean you shouldn't look at it. If you're a dedicated professional, you would be open-minded enough, but you're not. You have a limited set of beliefs because it's a job. But actually, your job is to serve the people that are moving and you're in there to help those people move, right? So the industry, the figures we look at week after week after week, 6,000 sales collapsing, 12,000 people's lives going on hold. Yeah. What is going on? It is because of our industry's failure to adopt new techniques in the interests of their clients. Conveyancing is one of them. I mean, in terms of introducing people to conveyancing, early. Everyone knows it's the right thing to do. Everyone knows it's the right thing to do, yet they don't do it.
because it might risk them losing the listing.
Yeah, their fear of failure is bigger than their desire for success.
Let's just share this stat. Top 25 estate agents in the UK year to date, top 25 based on the total number of sales agreed. The corporates, in terms of
There you go.
have 4.5, you have a 40. These are based on the properties that have left these estate agents' books between Jan 1 and the end of July. And the corporates, you have a 46.6% chance of moving. With the franchises, 58, self-employed, 67, and there's a couple of regional independents in there, and they are really good regional independents.
Well managed, well led. Yeah.
Okay, 69. Okay, and those regional independents they are the exception to the rule. One is based up north and one is based in Surrey, and they are both amazing operations led by some great people. But that just tells you there that, you know, if you go with a self-employed estate agency, you have a 2 in 3 chance of moving. If you go with a corporate, and ladies and gentlemen, we are not criticizing corporates.
No, 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 no.
Just, you know, the data doesn't lie. And isn't it interesting, Brian, that a certain panorama program seems to have been forgotten?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah.
oh. Should we get off the soapbox? Tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, again, don't worry, Brian. No one watches the show.
I thought it was a couple. My mum watches it. There's a couple of people that watch it.
Oh, bless. Hi, Brian's mum. Right, fall through rate 24. There you go. And as I said, those are the number fall throughs. Let's go to net sales. So net sales, ladies and gentlemen, gross sales for the week, less fall throughs for the week equals net sales. Okay. So the number of net sales, 19,676, which compared to last week, it was almost identical at 19,750. Year to date, cumulative net sales, we are on 587,800, which is 5.8% ahead of last year and 10.6% ahead, pardon me, of 17, 18, and 19. And there's the graph there, which again shows every year going back to 2017. And you can see here that obviously the purple line was 2020. But to actually say that our net sales are near as, damn it, 21, 22 figures, with what's happening in the economy, you know,
Yeah, with the turbulent nature of politics at the moment, then that's a pretty decent result, isn't it?
it is. And again, let's just remind ourselves that last year was the yellow line, but 23 was the pink line, and that's a huge difference. So that just shows you that the property market is not influenced by the things that the newspapers might, with the doom and gloom mongers. It is sentimental, but it's not obviously sentimental about the things that are being talked about at the moment. Could that change? Of course, it can change. Okay, so let's move on. Price changes as a percentage of listings at 71, and gross sales as a percentage of listings at 88. So again, a decent number at 88.56. Move on. Exchanges. So the red line is the number of exchanges. The yellow line is the number of.
That's criminal. That's a criminal slide. It really is.
Puts it into a different context. There you go. So this is the red. So again, that's just raw numbers. That's the percentage. So therefore, in June, 50.13% of the homes that left estate agents' books exchanged and completed. The other 48.7%.
Chris, just go back to that previous slide, would you? That stamp duty, right? That peak. That should read normal ability, right? If we can reach that number of exchanges from what is a smaller pipeline back then compared to what it is now, back to your previous pipeline growth.
Okay, well see this bit here. That was stamp duty month there. That peak there. You always get a peak at Christmas, at December. That's December. That's December. That's December.
Yeah,
it's here. So
yeah.
even in the crazy march of stamp duty, we still only got up to 62 and 42% of properties. Well, late 30%.
I think I said before, you know, that should be the normal because it can be done, right? They can all be done. And my question is, why isn't it? Because the pipeline, pull up your pipeline chart a sec, would you, if you can find it? There. Okay, right, there you go. So the pipeline's the same size as it was in April.
Yeah.
Right? Bigger.
Bigger.
Therefore, the chance of getting that amount of exchanges should be the same, right? So the numbers are there. The only reason that you shouldn't be able to exchange that amount is if the pipeline is lower, therefore that's impossible. But it's not, it's higher. So why isn't the number of exchanges staying at that level?
Because
Answer that. I'd love anyone to come on and challenge me and answer me that question. Why
for the
are
same reason,
exchanges
and
not?
again, ladies and gentlemen, so people accuse me and probably indirectly Brian of being negative about the industry. No, we're not being negative.
No.
We're asking the difficult questions.
Yeah, it can be done. It's been proven to have been done. Therefore, if it's proven to be done, why can't it continue? There must be a reason why not.
It starts and finishes with the valuer and the way their mindset is with the boss. That's how they're being motivated. Being open-minded. If you get the solicitors instructed before at listing, you will shave 4 weeks off the sales progress.
Will you though? Will you? Will you?
Of course they won't, because they're afraid to lose the listing.
No, 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 no. If you got someone instructed 4 weeks earlier, yeah, will the conveyancers get it through 4 weeks quicker?
Well, you would hope they could prepare that all the
My
TA.
point is, if you look at that graph on exchanges, that's a pipeline. The agents are not dealing with it. They're not responsible. They are responsible for putting the sale together, but they're not responsible for the conveyancing, for the process of that transaction.
Well, they could start getting the contract ready.
Yeah, but my point is pipeline. Look at the pipeline for April, the stamp duty pipeline,
Yeah,
right? And look at it for now,
there.
right? Okay. So my question is, go back to your exchange graph, the one you just put on there, where you had the stamp duty line on it. Okay. So my question is, that stamp duty number there was exchanged based on a pipeline figure, obviously, yeah?
Yeah.
So the pipeline figure is exactly the same in May. It was a little bit the same in March. So why isn't the exchanges happening that level every month?
Because it's factory conveyancing. It's like they're in Droitwich and they want to see side search because and it comes back down is it
Mindset. It's mindset. It can be done. But because there's no deadline for stamp duty, and therefore, if we don't miss the deadline, we will probably get complaints from our own clients that have been passed to us. And I'm talking about conveyancing here. Then we're not going to, we're going to go back to what we were doing before. So the industry, what I'm saying is, the industry is showing everybody that collectively together, it can work together and deliver much better results for customers to move quicker, more positive. We don't need, digital technologies coming, or so I can get told. You can instruct conveyancers earlier. You can get the digital pack of information over earlier, but it comes down to mindset and collaboration between conveyancing, mortgage firms, and estate agents who have proved by that graph that they can do it. But why does it take, and I guess this is probably the easier question, why does it take government intervention with stamp duty deadlines that get customers to say, if you don't exchange me, I'm going to have to pay this and I'm going to be after you if you don't do it? Why isn't our mindset the same anyway? We can do the job. Collectively, we can do the job to get more people moved every month. So why aren't we doing it?
Because I personally believe estate agents don't care if the house sells or not. They more care about that they don't lose the listing to the competitors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, you could say, well, okay, is that different with owner occupiers? But again, the vast majority of UK estate agency is dealt with by employed valuers, and I'm not getting at you employed valuers, but if the way your business is on listings and KPIs is on market share, you're going to do that. It starts at the top. Oh, right. Get back.
Interesting question to ponder, though, right?
Fascinating.
It can be done. Why aren't we replicating that? Why aren't we copying what success looks like? Why aren't we learning from what happened and what made it really good in April, different to everybody else in normal peak in December? And the same, you can ask the same question in December. Is it because, and this is a theory, is it because it's being driven by the consumer?
Because if you listen to all the forums on estate, is that people are dying to be led by their estate agent, but they're not being led.
They're not being led, no. Estate agents largely are controlled by their customers, believe it or not. I'll tell you the price. I won't accept that reduction. I want this reduction. I'm going to pay that price because that's what I think the house is worth. And the term negotiation, very questionable if we are really fiercely negotiating for people. But actually, I think a lot of the answers to the December peak, the April peak, the fact is the peaks to me as a businessman, the peaks show me it can be achieved. Long as you've got the pipeline levels to hit that number, it can be achieved. So my question to, I guess, the profession is why isn't it always being achieved? And actually, the only thing I've got to go on, because I hear it every single day. I'm in a quite a unique position as a businessman. I'm talking to the public and estate agents and conveyancers on a daily basis. And what I see, just for my two P's worth, is that those results are largely driven by the consumer. I've got to have it done by December the 3rd. I've got to move by Christmas. Got to move by, I'm only going to give you my listing. I'm only going to accept that offer if they can do it by Christmas. I'm only going to do this if I can get the stamp duty deadline done. And that drive comes from consumers to the estate agent and from consumers to their conveyancer. But both the estate agent and the conveyancers have proven with those stats that it can be done if they're given the right motivation. It turns out the disappointing thing is the motivation is the threat. If you don't, I'm not moving. If you can't, I can't afford to move. If you don't do it by Christmas, I'm not doing the deal. If I don't do it by the stamp duty deadline, I'm not agreeing that price. So those threats drive the market, and the threats come from the public because of their frustrations with it all.
So maybe,
It can be done. Why not have a world where we don't have to threaten each other to get things done properly? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
be amazing. So probably instead of trying to persuade estate agents to change, we need to persuade the public to change the way they work with their estate agents, conveyancers, and mortgage arrangers.
But then you think about that, that's looping back to what I said, the EXP of this world and these sort of guys, the Nesteds and these people, TA UK and people like that are, coming out of the woodwork now and they're gaining momentum. 5 years from now, who knows where we're going to be with it. But it's actually what I see is, particularly in things like EXP, who we deal with and Nested, is the agents that are joining those organizations are the ones that are frustrated in the corporate world or frustrated in other parts of the independent world. And actually, they're getting frustrated with the businesses for not innovating, not changing, and not trying to drive the industry forward. So they're going, do you know what? I'm going to go and work with a group of people that all think like me. That's the fundamental reason why those networks are growing so much, because they are becoming the elite. They're being made up of the people, the 1 in 25, the 1 in 30, and I might be being unfair there, who are sitting there going, I'm not accepting this anymore. Because I can see it can be done, but no one's driving it. We're too worried about getting charges for Rightmove to make a couple of quid, or getting paid for that deal or that deal. I want to do a better job for these people, the customers. So they're going and working in a gang of other people that all think like that, and fair play to them. That's not going to suddenly reverse itself.
No, I'm keeping an eye on the EXP figures, and they are pulling away from a certain large corporate, the big one that everyone is aware of. In terms of single brand,
we're going to see innovation having to come now from the chasing pack, and those that don't will just eventually dribble away. Their numbers will start to go down. Their costs are only going to go up, and things are going to get tougher for them.
Again, as I said, a stat that I published, ladies and gentlemen, is that the top 25 estate agents took 33% of the market back in 2019, and now it's gone down to late 20s. So I think it's a 22% drop. It's the big boys and girls are drifting very slowly downwards. We are not criticizing, and I think the biggest thing that the corporates are going to be worried about is that the ones that are passionate will leave their estate agents and go to self-employed, and all of a sudden your red hot valuer now becomes your biggest competitor. Right, I'll tell you what, this is going to be more than an hour this week, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on. Okay, so this is the graph that shows the pound per square foot at sale agreed. That's the orange line. Why is that important? Because it follows the land registry figure 5 months in advance. So the land registry is the red line, and the blue line is the sole subject to contract from 5 months previously. And you can see there's a very close match there. Again, just to let you know, so if you want to know what's happening to house prices, follow the blue line, ladies and gentlemen, or follow the orange line there. just a great way to come back to the show. And that, again, that's just a graph that shows you the average rents. Again, ladies and gentlemen, all these graphs are available to download on the YouTube. If you go down to YouTube, go to the description, and if you can see there's some graphs there, you can use them at your valuations, you can use them internally, but I ask that you don't use them on social media because my daytime job is I'm a ghostwriter, local property market, national property market commentator for estate agents, writing them content, and some of my clients use it, and it will look silly if you're using them, if someone else in your town is using them as well. So, but feel free for your own personal use and at Val's. Brian, before we go to Truro, anything you want to say, or do you want to say, or you can save it to the end?
I think we'll go on to Truro.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, let us go to Truro. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we are using a bit of kit called Insight. Insight is a platform from the firm 20EA. 20EA have a different number of platforms, business generation platforms, data platforms, but this particular one is called Insight. Insight is like Rightmove Plus on steroids. And it looks back at not just the last 13 months that Rightmove Plus does, it goes back 5 years plus the year we're in. The product itself, there's a free version which goes back 3 months, which I think you can log on and have for free. And then there is there's different versions. They all have the same amount of data. The only difference is the area that they focus on. So there is one where you have it for a town, one for a region, and then one national. I've got the national one. But if you have the town one, you would have exactly the same data that I have access to. You would just be limited to your different postcodes. 20EA do not pay me to highlight their product. They give it to me free of charge. And that has enabled me to create the stat show that you've already seen in the first half of the show, and also allows me to use the product to focus on Truro today. The data itself is considered about 98-99% accurate, and I've cross-referenced it against many different sources, and that sort of figure is absolutely bang on. If you are interested in the product itself, then do not mention my name. I'm not on commission, and just contact them. Brian, I know you're a massive fan of it as well because you're and I think, ladies and gentlemen, is if you don't know how well you're doing, how the hell do you know you're doing well or not? And again, this bit of kit will prove whether someone's overvaluing, whether they're a good agent or they're a bad agent. So without further ado, let us go to the beautiful city of Truro. We're going to start off with residential sales. There's a bit of lettings at the end. There's not so much data on lettings, but there's plenty on sales that we can look at. And Brian, what I'd like to do is if you just see something that grabs your attention, please do shout up. Okay, so what we're doing here is that we've gone from the 2nd of, so we've got the 2nd of January 2020 all the way through to include the 29th of July, which was yesterday, because we're filming this on Wednesday the 30th. We are looking at the postcode districts of TR1 through to TR4. So that is Truro and the outskirts villages. And I appreciate one of those postcodes does go quite north towards the North Cornwall coast. But in this is, and now again, just to make you aware, you can actually go down as well as postcode sector. But for the purpose of this, we'll just keep it at TR1 to TR4. We're not including new builds. You can switch that on and off as you see fit. In the last 5.5 years, 9,084 properties have come onto the market with an average asking price of 460,825. Let us dive in and look at the market share of the agents here, and immediately we're starting off with Clive Pierce. Clive Pierce. Do you know anyone on this list here, Brian?
Yeah, I do. I know a few of them actually. I know Andy Gowndry's business is a very good one there. I was just laughing at Cornish Bricks, number 6. I mean, come on.
Hey, come on. We've had worse names than that. I quite like that.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Let's be nice. So it looks like Clive Pierce here the average asking price that's been coming on the market is 460. So it looks like Clive Pierce with an average asking price of 383 tends to focus on the lower to middle market. So if we were using a supermarket analogy, I would probably be saying that they're more of a Tesco's in terms of their branding, not branding, but in terms of their market position. And it looks like 20 and 21, we saw some growth from around an average of around 10% to around 15 or 16%. And again, Brian, looks like we're having good months and then a bad month. It's quite spiky. Normally, I wouldn't expect the number one agent to be as spiky as that. Anything that
It probably looks like someone's heart monitor as well in that business because it's up and down so much. It's quite nervy, isn't it? Actually,
it is. So again, again we've not spoken with Clive Pierce, or I don't know if there is such a person as Clive Pierce, but if there is, nice to speak with you, Clive. You can see, as I said, that's where the listings are. Let's go look at Philip Martin. So Philip Martin 438. So that's more of a Sainsbury's estate agent by the looks of it. And you can see here that their market share seems to be a lot steadier, but there's no growth there, but there's no drop. So that's good to see. Let's go to Goundries. So again, Goundries there, they are at 434. So they're again more of a, as I said, a Morrison's in terms of their estate agency. I suspect that is, there we go. So they must have had a good month there in Feb 2020. So that was just before COVID kicked in. And again, look, we're going from a bad month of, wow, okay. So we have bad months at 4.2 and we have good months at 11. So again, looks like, it's, I mean, if we just let me just take 2 seconds, Adrian. I will put this back. I just want to take that spike out because hold on. So there, now that's interesting. Is again, that's very spiky. This is where's the wrong word? But normally, because ladies and gentlemen, this is our third year of doing it, and we do a different town or city every week. There is a huge amount of good months and bad months here. This is what's screaming at me with the bigger estate agents.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. Right, we'll just put that back. Lillycrap Chilcot. So again, look there.
It's almost like they're all someone has a good month and then they take the properties off them and then they get taken back and they take them and it's like the top guys are all fighting each other for instructions. It's probably
It
not the
sounds like
analogy, but
it sounds a tough mark, that there's no one standing out. And okay, if we let's just okay, let's keep going. Lillycap Chilcot, 800. Okay, that's a bit more steady, but they're more of your Marks and Spencers, Ocado stroke Waitrose agents. We will look at the upper quartile in a second. Miller Countrywide, nice steady. Cornish Bricks. Stratton Creeper, slight drifting down there. H Tiddy, I like that name. Stags, Martin and Co. We'll just whiz down these, because I know you'll all be interested. Shaw Partnership, again, as I said, they're bigger prices. Savills, 1.2, there we go. Humbert's at 600, or just the
I,
Skowskis.
the number 17 there, Huss, they came in very innovatively a number of years ago when I was working in that part of the world or had an interest in Truro and that surrounding area. They came in with a big splash, and I actually at the time thought these guys will do something here, and it's a pity to see that they haven't really made much inroads.
Are they based in Truro?
Yeah, yeah, around the area.
Okay. So it looks like a bit of a slugfest, doesn't it? Yeah,
If
it looks.
if you've got an average house price of 300 grand and you've done 111 properties in 5 years, you've got a bit of a problem in the business, haven't you, really? It's not really a model that's caught on.
Let's look at the upper quartile. We'll go million. See who the agents of choice are. Hold on. Pull that back. Hold on. So it's going to be a lot spikier because there's only 500, but Lillycrap Chilcot. So okay, there we go. But again, 73, over £1 million. Okay, you don't need to sell many of them, but 73 in 5 years is not a lot, is it?
No.
Not, let's drop that down to 750,000 and see if that makes any difference, okay?
And bear in mind, that's listing. It's not what they're selling.
No, we'll look at that in a second. Interesting. Interesting. Again, looks like H Diddy's are dropping there in the 700 mark. Doesn't look like anyone's doing that much in the seven. Oh my word. So who's playing? Who's the? Let's go a minute. That's a magic number. 750 to a million. Lily Crap and Chilcott looks like they were the daddies in 2020, but they've been
Yeah, yeah,
drifting
yeah.
off in a downward direction. So what are Lily Crap Chilcott doing with their marketing that meant that their market? Again, I'm not criticizing here, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just saying what's happened there. Something's adrift. Something is adrift. Right, let's just put that back and just see. Let's just look at Lily Crap Chilcott on its own. Looks like they've lost from the top end, but made it more in a bit made it from the middle. But interesting, interesting. Right, okay, let's move on. Stock levels. Okay, so in terms of stock levels, if you those are the number of properties in the four postcodes made up. So 888 properties on the market in July 2020. It went down to 437 in 2022, and today it sits at 1,188. So if someone's saying, well, why my house isn't selling compared to 22, you can say, well, there's 3 times the amount of houses for sale. I'll tell you what is interesting, Brian, is this. If you compare the growth between 22 and 25, there nationally it's doubled.
Mm.
Okay. That's more than double. That's tripled. Now, I've been looking at some South Coast towns, and there's some of the South Coast towns, their number of properties for sale are almost identical to 2008.
Okay.
And I've seen it in 2 locations. And I can get some time, I'll do some more research. But
2008 is an interesting dynamic because, of course, that just preceded the major financial crash across the world. And
yes, I mean, nationally, we'd have to be about 1.3 million. And if you recall, we've got 780,000 for sale. So I wonder what's happening on that South Coast. I'll do some more homework and just see if it's a coastal thing. But Eastbourne, there's just as many houses for sale today than there were in 2007. And again, it is a simple supply and demand game of that's what drives property prices.
yeah.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, here we go. So there's an awful lot of things happening here, ladies and gentlemen. So what we've done here is this. We've looked at the number of, okay, so the order that we're in is it based on new instructions? Okay. Oh, sorry, bring that one back. Do apologize. There we go. That's the order. So big boys at the top, smaller boys and girls at the bottom. Okay. Most estate, there's a lot of data going on here. So let me show you what's happening. I want you to ignore new instructions and sole subject to contract. I want you to focus totally in the short term on this exchange and withdrawn. Because if you add up on each of your lines, the exchange percentage and the withdrawn percentage, they all add up to 100% on every line, because the only way a property leaves an estate agent's books is if she exchanges or she withdraws. Okay. So therefore, in the last 2 years, we know for a fact that 501 properties have left Clive Pierce's books in the last 2 years. Okay. Of which 296 have exchanged and 205 have withdrawn and sold, and you haven't been paid and the homeowner hasn't moved. So we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, is what percentage of homes do Clive Pierce shift? The average in the town is 49. And you can see, we can go down here, but this is really good to see. And I must give a round of applause for Clive Pierce and Philip Martin here, that you're around the 60% mark, which is really quite rare for the bigger agents to be at the top end of the range. Cornish Bricks are at 62. Savills are down at 21, but I would expect that because of the price range. Let's just remind ourselves, if we whack it up to a million, I'll just do that now just for what's name and giggles. Hold on a second, we'll just do that now. It's near as damn it a million. You will see that the percentage does come crashing down to 29, and now all of a sudden you can compare and contrast. So look, if you put a property on the market, let's just put a million, just because it's nice and clean. And I know there's going to be some perfectionists watching this. There we go. Is that a million? Yeah, it is. There we go. So if you've got a property that came on the market at a million or above, the chances of selling it and moving in the last 5 years has been 30% or 31%. And you can see how the different ages. So this is telling me is that Raws and Row are the agent that seem to get stuff shifted in the million mark. Interesting. Okay, let's bring it back. Goundries are at 48, Lillycrap and Chilcot at 41, but again, they tend to in the upper end. So again, I would expect that to be slightly lower. Miller Countrywide at 40, Cornish Bricks at 62, Strata Creba at 51. We'll look at down the others here. There we go. So the Skalskis at 69, well done. And At Home Cornwall at 82. So again, if you were a smaller agent down here, I would be using this data to say, Mrs. Miggins, we might be the smallest agent, but you have an 18-10 chance of selling against the other competitors who have a 1 in 3 chance of selling. And a great line to use is if you're not the biggest estate agent is Mrs. Miggins, if you know that agent has 10 3-bedroom semis on the market. So if a hot buyer comes in, which one of the 10 is the agent going to focus on? Versus me, I've only got 1 3-bedroom semi.
Chris, this is the problem, right? This is the thing that we say every time we look at these things in the towns. We look at a list of estate agents and we give them education about what to say, but ultimately what the easier place to be is what do we do differently that other people don't do. So if I was looking at opening up an estate agency in Truro, the number one thing I would do is understand the top players, what do they all do, and therefore what can I do that they don't? And then I would absolutely market the hell out of that if it was the right solution, of course. You know, because if you only work 4 days instead of 12, 7 days a week, then of course that's not something you want to market or shout about. But the point is, what is the differentiation? What and every single time we look at these, there is a bunch of estate agents up there. We're not quite sure why they're doing better than they're doing. We looked at that business. I remember last time we did it, who were really good, had a great set of numbers and were really good across all disciplines. And you know what we saw from the Panorama program was the lady that ended up selling with Connells. There's lots of estate agents around here, but I went with Connells because I know the name and they've been around a while. That's because she had no real knowledge of what other people do or if they do anything different to Connells. So she just chose them because they've been around for a long time. And look what happened. And I don't know it's not representative of every customer, but their in that program was a very quick insight into the psyche of someone who'd listed with an estate agent, right? Which we don't tend to see at that scale. And it was, well, I'll recognize the name and I'll see a few of their boards and I'll go with them. And I'll go with them was the attitude rather than because in the mind of the public, every single estate agent does exactly the same thing.
Well, it's interesting because I've gone and found the top 4 estate agents' Facebook pages. So tell you what, let's go and have a look at them and let's have a look. Okay, so Clive Pierce. Here we go. Listing. Look at us. We've won a hamper. Listing. 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 Listing.
How often are they posting, Chris? Can you see that?
May the 29th, May the 30th, June the 1st, June the 4th, June the 4th, June the 5th, June the 19th. Fuck's sake, 2 weeks. Excuse my French. June the 21st, June the 20th. I'm sorry, guys. Nice photo, by the way. This is atrocious. Jeez. It's like Rightmove. It's like Rightmove with the word Facebook at the top. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. I am criticizing here. This is. People spend hours on these things, and people will check you out. They're not going to stand out. No wonder it's honestly. No wonder it's tooth and nail because if the number one eight, I'm sorry, right, let's go and look at.
What's the number two guys doing? So,
Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Cornwall housing market update. Let's have a look. Let's see what they're doing. That's not a housing market update. I'll show you what a good housing market
that's
update.
not. That's not.
Let's go. I'll show you what a good housing market update. Now, I always have this one because this is my one of my favorite estate agents in Britain. Okay, this is a housing market update. The Great Chester Bungalow. Okay, it's Chester. Let's here we go. The average sale price of a Chester bungalow, 330,000, which works out at £354 per square foot. For comparison, 3,498 houses are sold same in the same period with for £298 per square foot. 366 bungalows in Chester were sold.
Yeah, you see, that's good because you're giving it. They're giving advice on that. Advice to Chester Set. That's good. A bit wordy, but it's pretty good.
It is a bit wordy, but again, it
Got the information in.
got the
And
information
people
there.
will read it if they're keen to move.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, you need to be copying. And again, these guys here. I mean, just look. Okay, you must put your listings in. Look, 58 days to sell a house. Or there you go. The average size of a bungalow.
Yeah.
A couple of listings. Look at that. There you go. Property market update. People business. The average price paid. That's what you need to be doing. That's what makes you stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Listing, reduced, listing. Nice picture, by the way. I like your photography. Listing, testimonial. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll give you 3 out of 10 for that. Boundaries. You said these guys were good. Let's have a look. Here we go. Listing. People. Oh, we like that. Okay, bit of personal stuff here. We like that. Have you been there, mate? You've got to go to the Eden Project. It's great.
Yeah, no, big, yeah.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's worth it. Okay. Okay, we've got a little bit of personal stuff here. We like that. Okay. Brian, you go to a party and someone who doesn't know you finds out you're an estate agent. What's the first thing they ask you?
How much is my house worth? Or what's happening in the market?
What's happening in the market? That's what you need to be talking about, ladies and gentlemen. This stuff. You are the gatekeepers to the second most interesting topic in the world to the British.
You know what? I'd be putting on there, why you should move now. Why now? I mean, and by the way, now is always the perfect time to move.
Of course it is.
But this sort of stuff, and but I think ultimately what I've got to be doing is looking at what I'm posting and seeing what engagements I've got. If I've got no one looking at my stuff, then why am I posting the same stuff out all the time? And if no results come from it, why am I doing it? It's like this, we just think we've got to be doing something, so we do.
So we'll post our listings.
Which is.
Okay. But listings don't get you listings. Okay, if someone spots the one and they put their house on the market for it, that's different. But again, most it doesn't normally work that way.
Yeah, I think it's a case of, what's happening is we just need to be, producing so much content these days that the reality is for most people in a business, it's not easy to do. And they should outsource it, to be honest, because it is important to post and it's important to have a slightly different, rhetoric now and again. Just stop on some of those though. I mean, the point is, how many engagements are there? 2, 1, none, 1, 1. I mean,
and again, ladies and gentlemen, you can boost these and you can get yourself some vanity metrics.
I'd have a package in my agency that if somebody wanted it boosted, then they pay for it. The social media is as an important part of your marketing strategy for clients' home, as it being in your window of your shop, because that's exactly what this is, as well as Rightmove. But but you have a package for people if they want an enhanced process because you're going to have to front all this money up to boost listings and everything else online. It's difficult, but there's no reason why you can't create a little website for each house, but get the customer to pay for that as a contribution to the fee.
Hang on, again. Honestly, Brian, if one of these agents adopted what this guy was doing here, because if he again look at the people, love the people element here. There's videos on here talking about the property markets and listings. I tell you what, presenter-led video tours, amazing, absolutely amazing. Right, do you know? Let's get. We are so on the soapbox today, Brian. Let's bring it back because
I always are. I always am when you and I get together.
oh, that's why you're damn good value for money when you do the show.
Free.
Really?
It's not exactly a good compliment.
No, but you are good. It's a term of reference. Term of
I'm joking. I'm
endearment.
joking.
Okay, right. Fall through rates 26%, which is just above the national average. Is there anyone that? Okay, Miller Countrywide at 12%. That's really good for a country. That is really good. That is really, really good. Straber Krieber, they're there as well at 17. Okay. So you can see there, you just have a look at your fall through rates. Let's look at average time. Well, actually, we'll do that. There you go. Average time to sell. So Clive Piercy at 128 days, Philip Martin at 88, Goundry's at 76, Lily Crap and Chilcott 127, but it is going to be more because they're posher houses. Okay. Price changes. Who's doing the price changes? This is a great way to see if we've got anyone overvaluing. We do have an overvaluing screen in a second. So the average 44% of homes that come on the market get reduced. Who's reducing the most? Miller Countrywide at 58. Big numbers, guys. Are you overvaluing? And there's some stuff in the low 30s. Okay. Let's go and see who is overvaluing at the moment. Okay, there's a lot of stuff happening here, ladies and gentlemen. So let me explain, pardon me, what's happening. The order that they're putting is by total number of exchanges. I know it says new instructions there, but trust me, it's the order. We're looking at the last 2 years worth of exchanges. And what happens is that every single property that comes on the market, 20EA have an AVM, an automated valuation model, a bit like a Valbal figure, and they have that running on every property in the UK and it just ongoing. And then as soon as you put it on the market, it looks at what you put it on the market for versus what it thinks it's worth and date stamps it. So of the properties that have left Clive Piercy's books in the last 2 years, you have overvalued it by 0.01%. So that is exceptional. That shows great then you're not overvaluing. Doesn't look like there's much overvaluing taking place with all the other agents in town. Nice and tight between 0 and 1.5%. And that's that column there. So again, no one's particularly overvaluing. Looks like prices are being hammered though from the original asking price to what was actually selling. So that's showing that the AVM model is probably just a little bit rich, but it's rich for all of you. So just take that. If it's rich for everyone, the model's going to be slightly off, but it's the same principles. So it's comparing apples with apples. So again, this is just showing you here that Miller Countrywide overvalued by 1.4, but then they get clobbered 6.51% off the original asking price. So by overvaluing by 1.4, they're getting 6.5% less than the original asking price. Do remember that we said that Miller Countrywide were quite high on their price reductions there. Okay. So it looks like we're having to have some decent price reductions here. So here we go. Philip Martin overvalued by 0.45 on the original asking price and then got clobbered 3.8% from the original asking price. Again, some of those would have been reduced, but we're going off the original asking price. A lot of people don't like percentages. So what 20EA then do is they say, right, if everyone had a £500,000 house, what would each agent achieve for it? Okay. So you can immediately see that Miller Countrywide, because they overvalued, means that they get £9,475 less per property than the average Truro agent, whilst Goundry's get £2,220 more than the average Truro agent. And you can go down and look at that list and you can see where you stand. So therefore, if you're up against if so Gounges were up against, say, Clive Pierce's, they could say, yes, our fee is £1,000 more, but look at the difference that I'll actually get for you. And it's not me that's saying it, it's 20 EA.
If
This
the
is
public, if the public saw these stats, they'd list everything with Alistair Shaw.
Where's Alistair Shaw?
Halfway down that list.
He's getting top dollar. I mean, I will just say for a slight pinch of salt is I'm not weighing on your firework, Alistair Shaw, but the lower numbers you do tend to get a little bit spikes. But it does show. I'd love to know what Alistair Shaw are doing with their properties because
Where would be the line? I mean, this is again a question we can't answer today, but where do you draw the line? What number can you say, oh, that's just because he's got small amounts, or that's because that's the strategy? What that looks like is maybe he's going in and trying to price in like an auction style to
yes.
drive the prices up, which actually is not too wrong. But the problem is, of course, when you go out on a listing, the client wants the high number. They want both. They want you to value it at 500 plus and then get
Actually, yeah, actually, you're right. I didn't spot that. He is. This is showing that if you put on a really awesome guide price, you'll attract her through the door and get people to bid over it.
That's
We
right.
all,
I mean, the name of coastal and countryside might mean that he's only dealing with an exclusive set of property that's sitting on a cliff looking over a beautiful view, which means people are going to naturally pay more for it. But you don't know. What the stats are showing is that he maybe is pricing a bit too, or initially a bit too low, but he's getting fantastic results. So maybe there's a bit of a change in the gap there to help this business.
it might not be too low. He might be just deliberately going right. Let's put this house on at 100 grand less than what it.
Absolutely.
Because it does. That's the whole thing. Is and again, it comes back to what you were saying earlier on, Brian. Is it's all about getting the people right. Finals. Let's look at the rentals, and Philip Martin is the Daddy-O agent here. Are they growing? No, they're slipping. Martin and Co. Steady. Miller and Countrywide. Goundries. Let's look at open rent. They seem to be growing. They are growing. So that's lower than the national average 18, 19%. But still, do remember, ladies and gentlemen, half of the properties that come on the market in the last 2 years, or 51.2% of the properties that come on the market with open rent in the last 2 years, were previously on the market with another agent. Okay, so again, we'll just have a quick look at some of these so you can just get a flavor of where your market is going, and then we will call it a day. Okay. Good stuff. Right, Brian. Back to you. Final thoughts?
No, just the fact that, I mean, just to sum up the rather long session that we've had today, really good. The market's good in a good place. Weather's been pretty good. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that agents should be using when talking to customers about new instructions and changes to price, which I suspect many of them might not really be fully aware of, it is the relaxation around mortgage issuing. The amount that people can borrow, especially as first-time buyers, is quite sizable now, and that should give a lot of impetus into the market. But that information should be used as a good reason why now is the good time to get the property on and get a good deal on and get a good buy, a good price for your house, because the relaxation around certain mortgage lending rules. Other than that, it's a great market. Go enjoy it. And don't worry about August. Don't be jittery about August is going to be quiet. Get the mindset right. The market is still active in August. So plenty of people, plenty of business to be done, lots of instructions. Let everybody else worry that it's quiet. You get out there and make hay while the sun shines.
Brian, thank you as always. Excellent value and insight for your time. We'll see you probably about 10-ish weeks time in the autumn. But more importantly, thank you for watching the show. If you're a Truro agent and you want to grow your business with the use of stats and data with what I've shown you and what the guy in Chester does and everything else like that, feel free to pick up the phone to me. My name is Chris Watkin. I use property data to help estate and letting agents grow their businesses. And we'll see you next week for week 30 of the Stats Show on a different town, different guest. And we'll see you next week. Thanks very much.